Good afternoon, everybody, to this session. Solar energy, as you all know, is one of the most exciting new streams in India as far as energy security is concerned. India is very heavily dependent on coal and liquid fuels to polluting, which are scarce. It's polluted, dense environment of conventional energy and looks for sunshine and breeze, looks at solar and wind energy. And I'm very pleased to have with us Sharka Nandan. Now let's start with the key question. If you look at Indian industry generally, in recent years many entrepreneurs and investing abroad more than India, which are policy paralysis, all kinds of problems. You seem to have gone the other way. You have a US-based operation expanding in India. Tell us about your company, how you came about doing this, and why.
I think, first of all, thanks to Himanshu and the organizers. So, I really like that question. Basically, it's going the other way around. But I would say still most of the bread is still coming from the US operations rather than the Indian operations, which is still keeping us moving. But we have a good long-term view in the Indian market, which is keeping us moving and looking India as more aggressive. So how the company came in place. So I have been working in solar for almost 10 plus years now. First as an R&D engineer with some other global corporations in California, and then some other places on the East Coast in US, and then also part of a startup which went up to India's fastest 500 company in US. Then decided to venture on my own with a friend of mine who also kind of went through the same route after IIT Kharagpur, went up to University of Massachusetts, did solar engineering, and then designed solar inverters for US solar inverter companies. And then ultimately went back into solar project development, managing a $200 million fund to invest into solar assets in California. So one day we were basically starting at a conference and decided what's next. He said, I'm going back to India. I thought I also told him, I'm also planning on doing that. Let's go do it together. So what we did was, my expertise was more on engineering and project development. And Adesh's expertise has been also mirrored along with the financing aspect because he was managing a large fund. So we decided to split our operations between US and India. So what we do at SunSource is we have one side is which is we do back-end engineering work for which is kind of unique for Indian sense for the US-based solar companies. And it's more of a KPO type of operations, and where we provide US-based solar installers with the National Electric Board of US compliant drawings, fire codes, and we have done an impressive work in that. In fact, we have delivered almost 800 megawatts of design drawings for projects based in US, out of India and US over last 3 years. So that actually is keeping us going. And on the Indian side, what we are doing is we are doing focused on commercial industrial segment because that's where we see the long-term growth is in the market because that's where we see the grid parity starting to get hit, especially with the diesel side, if we're comparing against with diesel or a utility mix. But by 2016, we see the market is going to grow tremendously in C&I segment.
Are you familiar with both the markets? In the Indian market, across industries, very often there's a quality issue. There's an issue with some solar plants. Even in windmills, some of the best wind areas, you got some ancient mills not moving. So what are your thoughts on quality controls and systems in India compared to global standards? What can you contribute to this?
Quality has been a big concern for the Indian solar projects. I think that was one of the key points I heard in the last session just before lunch. In fact, we have also helping a plant, 10 megawatt plant in fact, which went under, so only performing almost 30 to 40% what it should have been performing. And interestingly, this project was awarded at 17 rupees 81 paisa in the NSM phase 1. and the developer was having a tough time even to figure out the DSCR payments, debt service payments. So, and the issue was the quality issue related to wrong equipment selection, bad design, poor implementation, and on top of it, overall the codes are not very intact, especially on solar side, because the DC codes are still very immature over here in India. So that's where our strong point is. What we are doing is we're leveraging the expertise which we have developed for the US market to the Indian side. And that's where we are also in continuous dialogue with the government and also with certain policy makers to help structure these national codes for solar. That is the very, very key requirement of the day.
When you mentioned the National Solar Mission, you could also have your people both in US and India. But I think you're the best person to react to what US has said last night about the requirement of domestic sourcing and how it might be a WTO issue. What are your thoughts on this?
It's an interesting issue. First of all, what US has done is kind of interesting because at one end they have gone out and put in tariff on imported modules if you do a project in US. For example, if a module is made in India, or actually not in India, in China and certain other regions, you have to add a factor built in into the cost and then sell into the US market. So your cost is starting to get compromised if you're selling in the US market if you are importing the modules outside of US. On the other hand, we have gone into the WTO with this particular legislation. I think it's so it's still very early to comment on the topic, but what I would say is some lobbies are driving it, and that's how it is. But at the end, the government of India is trying to boost the manufacturing. That is the whole thought process for that. But what is happening in India is, if you're importing a finished solar panel, there is 0% excise or customs duty. But when you're manufacturing, a lot of the manufacturers in India are suffering because of the whole excise and customs duty. Because if you're importing a raw material in India, you're taxed, and then when you sell the finished module, then you're also taxed. So your cost goes up. So it is still very unbalanced, and this particular WTO is still early because we have to still go through all the details what they are looking at. But looking at 30,000 feet level, I think a lot has to get done.
Now, like this dispute, the renewable energy industry is full of lots of pulls and pressures, demand for subsidy. How far away is the industry where it can just operate purely commercial viability without needing crops and support, like other industries?
I would say now, because last 1 year, if you look at how many projects have been approved and how many projects have been actually built and gotten their money in last 1 year, I think the numbers were there. So, and if you look at certain niches in the industry, we are looking at installing projects where we're competing with diesel. In fact, that was one of the points which was brought in by one of the panelists in last session. We're looking at those particular, comparing solar with installations where you're fighting with diesel or certain other areas where the tariffs, industrial tariffs are higher. So grid parity is already there. And I think the government will do a justice if they take away subsidies in the market, because then everybody will come at par and the market will grow in itself.
You mean we are already in a position where you don't need subsidies?
In certain sectors. And in certain sectors, I think by 2016 we'll start seeing the market is starting to see the grid parity. But what my point is, if the subsidies are there, then the government should enable getting the subsidies. Because right now what is happening, there is a glass image which is saying, okay, there is a subsidy, but it's very difficult to get it sanctioned and also get the money from the government for the 30%. So if the subsidies goes away, it will at least put the right benchmark in it, or the government will put in the right best practices to get the subsidies.
Okay. Now, if we are heading for grid parity, and you mentioned 2016 as early as that.
I would say, but in certain areas we are already there. If you're comparing with diesel, in fact, we are doing a few projects where we are selling projects without subsidy.
So if you're heading for grid parity so soon, in 2 to 3 years, and part of the business already is there, you think from demand perspective, I would expect an explosion of demand. Grid parity is coming. Are you seeing that in the market?
I think solar is more of a business where still a lot of education is required to the end consumer. And that education has to be a club of technology, finance, in terms of cost aspect, and how to put the right financing in place, cost of capital, a lot of things we can put, and so everything has to come in a package, and then the education has to be provided. What we are seeing in the market, people talk about solar, but they don't know where to get the solar project done, or how to get it done, or how to get it done from a long-term perspective. The system is going to perform, and it's going to perform right. There are a lot of projects which have gone wrong, so there is a lot of fear, inherent fear in people. If they spend too much money, if the project goes wrong, what happens? So the proper case studies are starting to come out. So that's where right now what we're seeing is last 1 year shakeout is happening in the industry. So stronger players are starting to emerge, and people whose assets are performing well, they are starting to do well, and they're really going to keep well, they're doing well, and clients are starting to now come to the companies which are doing well. Earlier the case was you have to go and explain and you're fighting against the lowest cost. But now we are seeing the game is starting to change, and the next year is going to be very, very interesting from that perspective.
One final point on the retail consumer. At the retail level, one does hear of interesting gadgets, interesting solar powered stuff. How far are we from a position where, say, a household in Delhi can say, power supply is erratic, it's not so good, at a slightly higher cost, can I put up something on my roof which can run a few fans, maybe a fridge? Is technology heading for that direction? How far are we from something like that?
From a technology perspective, we are already there. But challenge is from the policy perspective for the net metering to come in place. So CRC has already put out draft net metering bill or draft net metering policy. But with Indian Electricity Act of 2003, states have to enable net metering policy. Once that comes in place, and there will be some states which will be early adopters. For example, Delhi has already come out with a net metering policy draft of it, and so certain states are going to adopt it first, and certain will be later. Then also it will also depend what is the net metering. Are they offering at the same rate as the utilities selling the power, or the solar is they are buying it more? Because currently most of the states we are seeing the residential tariffs are around 4 rupees to 5 rupees 50 paisa. So at present it does not make sense, but in certain areas where you don't get electricity 24/7 and you have to use either batteries or you have to use diesel, then for the residential market it makes sense. So again, there are some niche pockets in the entire country, and but we see from the residential perspective by 2018 the market will start seeing that the major growth.
Your company is also rooftop solar. So what are the kind of clients who are adopting such technology? Where do you see this demand in industry as far as the rooftop solar is concerned going in the next couple of years?
So we are seeing the early adopters are pharma, for example, pharma industry. We are seeing some education institutes. We have completed projects. We have completed projects for car dealerships, which is very interesting because they have a daytime consumption without battery-based projects. We have done projects for boarding schools, for example, where this was one interesting project all the way in eastern UP. The client was burning diesel for almost 17 hours a day, and we installed a 100 kilowatt project with batteries. And even though then also their returns they are expecting between 3 to 4 years. So that is kind of a perspective. One of our projects actually recently won Google's Global Innovation Award with solar water pumping, solar water purification, and then taking the byproduct out to the bio toilets, and we did it for a non-profit, which got that award. So for the commercial industrial market, we are seeing the daytime users, heavy daytime users. They are the best clients right now, who can also take accelerated depreciation. But we are seeing once the net metering policy comes in place, the market is going to grow.
And what about, in the early days of renewable energy debate, one point that was put forth a lot was that it's basically in remote areas which are far from the grid. So if you add the grid connecting cost to the equipment cost, that's where it will be viable. So do we see a trend in remote villages and remote states adopting solar?
We see a trend, but it's still, I would say, challenging from a perspective that the policies although are there, but the implementation is starting to happen. So it's a challenging aspect, but we are seeing the trend, we are seeing early stages of those trends. And for example, Madhya Pradesh has done some good work in that. Northeastern states have done some good work in that, but it's still early days on that.
Okay. So in most issues, the policy, the framework, guidelines are important. So if you want to sum it up as if there are 3 or 4 key things the state must do to support this industry, and not in terms of give subsidy and grants, but in terms of policy and direction, what would those top things be?
Say net metering is a key thing. Once net metering comes in place, a lot of things will fall in place. And also proper development and proper implementation of some national solar standards and codes, which should be also implemented so that the projects can come at par. And also they should try to come up with some sort of a national database where the performance of these projects can be put online, so that the projects can be benchmarked. And the last thing I would say is we are missing the weather data which is accessible to the mass consumers or to people like us in the industry, so that we can project how much the system is going to perform properly to the client. And that's what is driving the US industry, because you can actually predict how much the system is going to perform even before installing it. And over here in India, even though you can do it, there are certain ways to do it, but you are still in the range of plus minus 5–10%.
In fact, I read reports where some companies have said, give us long radiation data, so please change the tariff. I think we have a few minutes. Somebody from the audience.
Plus minus 5 to 10% is no. We are used to 1 hour to 2 hours breakdown of power in metropolitan cities. So if you can give a solar voltage panels in every house, rooftop, I think people of the citizens of Delhi will enjoy it. Tata Sky, now for transmission of the waves, they are having this antenna in almost every house, they are capital market. Why can't similar dish should be introduced in rooftop for power supply as a stop-up arrangement when they tell you okay?
So that's a good point. And in fact, some companies have started to focus on the residential market quite aggressively.
Give us the address, we will install few houses straight away.
I think Bolt is doing a good job over there. And but challenge in the residential market is the tariffs are lower. So when people start comparing solar with the residential, if they're getting some 24/7 supply of solar, then the solar is still early days.
Mr. Nandan, it's not the tariff question, the unreliable supply breaks down all your electrical equipment. Now if you add that cost, then tariff is no concern.
That's very correct, sir. And so some companies have started to focus on that.
Anybody else? If you could please introduce yourself also.
Sure.
Good afternoon. I'm Ajit, I'm an educationist. To combat the day using of the consumers during the day, what is your opinion on fiber optic pipes being used for lighting?
Can you expand on fiber optic? I didn't hear
Yeah,
that.
fiber optic is basically a cable which transmits light. So that can be used to do lighting within the buildings. Do you have any light on that already?
I personally don't have experience on that particular technology, but what I hear is there is a lot of development which is happening. In fact, there was some recent article also I read recently that fiber optics is going to be the next big thing, especially in solar, where in addition to the concentrated side. So, but up till now, I haven't come across any technology on a commercial side which is offering that solution.
Thank you.
My name is S.S. Sethi. I am advisor to University of Petroleum Energy Studies. This particular fiber optic lighting works like you have a dish, and the fiber optic is at the focal point. And you run the fiber optic all through your building. And wherever you want, for example, you are having a 50 board fiber optic or 48 board, you bring it and keep it in one room, number of fiber optics, put a reflector, and it lights up the whole group. Germans were first one to come up with this one, and then Chinese took over in a big way. And I know a company in India who is also trying to develop this one. It's not a rocket science, you have a mirror basically. And then you focus into this one and bring that fiber optic in your room. Wherever you want, you can light it up as per your requirements.
I think that's a very value addition for solar, because when you club it with energy efficiency and then solar, your whole system size also goes down, makes very, very cost
So
effective.
basically you put the LED, basically fiber optic brings in the light, and then you put a reflector to do whatever lighting you need, and the number of lux what you need on a working table. And this is basically you have nothing to be imported, it's just a reflective mirror.
Right.
There's no electronics involved.
There is no electronics, it is pure hardcore mechanical thing.
We will be very interested if somebody can collaborate, and because if we can collaborate with LED, say fiber optics and solar.
You don't require LEDs at all.
Okay.
It is basically the fiber optic, the end point brings in the sunlight, and then you just put a reflector.
Sure.
For example, you have a fiber optic coming in, and you have a reflector here, like this. The light comes in, it spreads all over in the room.
Okay, that's an interesting thought. I think we'll wind up this session with the last word in case there's any point you want to highlight which may have escaped my questions.
I think we covered a lot of the good questions. One thing I would say is solar is here already. It's making an impact, and we just need to put up the right assets so that people have trust that solar really works. It actually works, but we just have to put in right efforts, right projects, keep on performing well, do the right operations, and then the market is there already in India.
Thank you. Wish you all the best.
Thanks.
Thanks to the audience for their participation and attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vatt. Thank you, Mr. Nandan, for